Welcome Wargamers, this is Mini Wargaming Dan here from miniwargaming.com. Here to bring more Orc Tactica. Okay, so we got Lootas. Lootas are just one of those fun units that don't take a lot of thinking, you just throw them on the board and dakka stuff to death. And just with dakka guns. Def guns, sorry. Dakka guns are on bikes, def guns. You know why they're called def guns? Well, partially because they cause lots of death. Things die everywhere and it's death everywhere. But also because you go deaf, because they're so loud and they're awesome. Yeah, that's right. It's an unintentional pun, or maybe it was intentional. I don't know. So, Lootas, they got this massive def gun. And they have, besides vehicle, they have the highest reliable strength gun for the orcs. But it's not enough to glance armor 17. It can only glance armor 13 and pen on 6s on armor 12. And so, you're wounding on 2s on most infantry, so that's good. And the AP isn't enough to really ignore anything, so it's not a big deal there. So the main strength of Lootas is actually killing vehicles. If you are armor 12 or 13, then you can blow the crap out of a vehicle just because you can hit it so many times with so many shots, most of the time. I'll get to that. You can just either glance it to death, which means if you're glancing something to death, if it has like 3 weapons, then you glance, kill a weapon, glance, kill another weapon, glance, immobilize it, glance, kill another weapon, glance, it's dead. Assuming you're not rolling with the minus to 1s and 2s. You're getting like 5s and 6s even on the glances, or 4s. So, no, just 5s and 6s. Anyways, so even with just glancing, you can really annihilate armor 13 vehicles, but more importantly, those armor 13 vehicles are going to be shooting. They're going to be doing other things. So even if you're glancing it, at worst case scenario, they can't shoot. Best case scenario, they're immobilized, or you're destroying some weapons, and they can't move either. So just like all those things, if you just hit them enough, you can disable those vehicles at least temporarily until you hit them again and destroy them. But when Lootas work really, really well in more of a, or most Orc armies are like this, but I like my speed freak list, when you're just running up the board, just attack them as fast as possible. The problem is that they have a lot of things that can shoot a lot of your vehicles. So if you can see a nice lineup with your Lootas, they have like 4 foot range, 4 feet. That's exactly across a normal board, more of a 6x4 board. And so if you deploy them up at all, then they can start having a little bit of range to either side as well. If you move them all the way up 12 inches, then they can see most of the board. You have to watch out for all the terrain though. So you're usually popping them up on some terrain, and if they get shot, they're gonna die like normal. A lot of them are gonna die. But if they're shooting at the Lootas, that's the whole purpose of the Lootas, it's to help your boys get into combat. Whether you're foot slogging or going in vehicles, doesn't matter. Lootas they can kill lots of things, but they kill the things that would kill your boys. Get it? So it's not your primary killer. In the end of the day, boys do your dirty work, or knobs, or whatever is getting in there, or I guess burners too. But it's your elite choice eliminates those things that could hurt your boys, or your vehicles charging up that would slow down your boys. So that's like monstrous creatures that orcs usually have a hard time with, because they can slaughter most things in close combat. And they're usually fearless. I mean, you're not going to make them fail a morale test. And you can only cause so much, and then they hit you back and they kill like 3 or 4 boys, and then you're taking more fearless wounds, and then you're stuck in combat, and your power claw is the only thing that can really hurt them after turn 1, because you go down to strength 3 with normal boys after the charge. So it's just like, monstrous creatures are just annoying. So if you have Lootas, you'll probably be able to wound on 4s or maybe even 3s if they're not that strong, and then you just pump them full of wounds. and then they'll eventually, and they get their full saves, which are usually 2 or 3 plus. But make them roll enough, they'll lose enough wounds so that when a power clock comes, they might be able to finish it off and you don't have to deal with it beyond 1 or 2 turns, so which is great. Other things is like dreadnoughts that have like those like double lath cannons or whatever that can like just shooting dreadnoughts. You can just pepper them, stun them, hurt them, whatever. Vindicators. They have that huge shot. You just glance their front armor 13 and all of a sudden they can't shoot. Hooray. There's no longer a big blast shooting at you. Anything like that. Lootas can just hit them. And so you have to position them properly on the board. So let's take a look of how you can most effectively do that. So Lootas, they have an extremely long range. And so they can almost reach, again, like I said before, everything on the board. And so they can shoot all the way across. But I'm guessing you're gonna have vehicles. You're gonna have Luta wagons, trucks, and battle wagons in your army. If you're going first and you're stuck there, you don't know where your vehicles wanna be, you want to place them in the center of the board because then you can get fastest statistically. If you put them all over here, all of a sudden they play all the way over on the other side. And you're like, what am I going to do? And then you just can't do anything. That's like so the Lootas, they want to be in the center of the board. They want to be center back. Because statistically, that's where you're going to be able to shoot the most. Okay, and then you're going to probably have a few firing lanes, which they're going to try to avoid. But it's great because if there's a firing lane, your trucks don't want to be there. Because, like, for example, if there's, so all these Lootas, they can all see like that. So if there's a vehicle over there, they can all shoot it, no problem, or a unit, whatever. And so your vehicles, they're going to want to go up. They're not going to want it to run in the fire lane, first of all, because then they can shoot you super easy. And so your trucks run up behind terrain and everything. And so they, first of all, they're not going to want to be open in the fire lane because then they can shoot your trucks, but then they can also get shot back by your Lootas. But then afterwards, when your trucks run up and are going to be assaulting, it's going to push those guys back out into those open areas for your Lootas to shoot. Because they don't want to be near a bunch of boys. They're going to move away if they won't want to get assaulted, if they're going to be a shooty thing. And that's when your Lootas can tear them apart as well. And so you really have to plan more with Lootas. I know I said you don't really have to think about them too much. You don't, but you have to think about everyone else in your army. Because it's really, really easy when you have a bunch of vehicles to just move up the board and you're like, aha, I have my big squad of units and I'm running up. And then all of a sudden you're like, uh-oh. What are these Lootas going to shoot at? They can't, I blocked all their line of sight. So that's really something important to think about because I don't know how many games I've had something planned out and then I've moved my vehicles and then a shooting phase I'm like, no, I can't see anything with the Lootas and that's a waste of a turn. That's very unfortunate. So Lootas, you shoot with them, they're heavy weapons so don't move them ever. Unless it's like really imperative and there's absolutely nothing you can do for 2 turns. Or a turn, rather. You can just like move and run and then get into another position. But that's like only if, it's very situational. If you place them right properly at the beginning of the game, you shouldn't have to, so just try to do that as best as possible. And again, depending on how, like a lot of people play with not that much terrain, a lot of people lots of terrain. And so if there's any kind of elevated terrain, put them on it for sure. Even if it makes them more susceptible to incoming fire, I'd rather get my Lootas shot than my trucks and my battle wagons. Because yeah, they're in the long run, they're probably gonna be doing a lot more damage. But Lootas are great, they're great fun, and even late game, if they have been ignored, they can still shoot out tons of stuff and like unit like guard players bring lots of like Valkyries. They're so high and big. It's like you can always see those. Like I can kill you. And so Lootas, they're lots of fun. And for those of you who haven't played them or wonder how much they get, how many shots they get, they're assault D3. So they don't have a set number of shots. It's how many guys there are. You roll a D3, which is a D6, but 1, 2 is 1, 3, 4 is 2, and 5, 6 is 3. And that's how many shots each Luta gets. So if you have a squad of 10, you get either 10, 20, or 30 shots. Obviously, you're hoping for that 30 to just annihilate things. But on average, you're getting 2 shots each, so you can almost rely on that. And if you get a bit fewer shots, and then don't waste your shots maybe on like some big squad, but shoot at a smaller squad to be able to weaken and maybe cause a morale test. But obviously you get 30, then you'll be able to maybe kill that thing, then who cares about that little squad kind of thing. So it's just very situational when you roll, or maybe you have to choose first. Comment below, please tell me. I don't think you do though. And so just dakka it up, just shoot everything you can, keep them back. They are somewhat expensive, but they're on the other side of the board. Unless you're dealing with other orc commandos, they should be safe. And even from deep striking units, say they deep strike right beside you, they're not going to be able to shoot that much. And then you can just shoot back and kill a lot of them. Lootas have always done great for me, almost always. They're lots of fun. Don't bring them in an assault planetary strike game, because if you got to move on the board one turn, losing even one turn with Lootas is almost devastating. So you want to be able to shoot with them every turn. That's the only way they're going to be able to fully justify the points that they cost. Other than that, happy wargaming and happy dakka! And for those of you guys that say, oh, you can upgrade a Loota to a mech, I personally didn't say anything because it's always a bad idea. Always.